Recording. Great. So hello, everyone. My name is Mushki Steinmetz. For those of you that know, I'm a granddaughter of Rabbi and Mrs. Silverberg of Beis Chabad, where I know this is from. And I don't know how initiated everyone here is with Tanya, but that is what I do for my day job. I teach Tanya in high school. So we're going to jump right in, start in the middle, just for a nice lesson just for the night, and we'll see if we'll continue it for now. Tonight is actually an auspicious night to be studying Tanya together, because tonight, the 18th of Elul, is the birthday of the author of the Tanya. So may his merit enhance our learning and just bring blessings for all of us and for the whole world. So today we're going to discuss an issue that I believe is very relevant to many people. It's definitely relevant to me. And this is when we have expectation, right? In life, when we just expect things to work out or expect things to be good. And what happens is that we don't, many times, our experiences or ourselves, we don't measure up to what we expected of ourselves, right? You know, all those memes of reality versus Instagram versus social media versus reality. So those expectations that we have of ourselves, and how we cannot get discouraged by failures that are bound to happen because we're human. So we're going to jump right into chapter 28 of Tanya, where the Rabbi Shneur Zalman is discussing a very specific scenario. He's discussing the issue of when someone is trying to pray and working hard on their prayer. So they're really working hard and getting into a meditative state in order to pray and bring themselves closer to God. And they've been working, and for some reason, as they're praying, some thoughts enter their minds, and they get distracted. So this person who's really trying to work on himself and really trying to, you know, work on his meditation and his concentration is really discouraged, because, you know, if he really was doing a good job meditating, then he really wouldn't have been distracted. Because if your mind is fully involved in one topic, then something else shouldn't be able to come in. So the Alter Rebbe is speaking to this person who is, you know, doesn't know what to do with himself and is totally discouraged, because all of his efforts really seem to be not getting him anywhere, because he's getting these thoughts no matter how hard he tries. So that's why I titled this "Practice doesn't make perfect." It's probably one of the sayings that really did a very big disservice to us as a society, because there's two things that follow from that. Number one, that perfect is the expectation, right? Practice makes perfect. So if you practice enough, then at some point in time you'll be perfect. But then what happens is that we're going to have disappointment, because we're bound to not be perfect. We're bound to make mistakes. And then there's despair, and that leads to all sorts of wonderful things like guilt and shame and apathy, right? That I'm not even going to try anymore. And that's what this person is experiencing in prayer, that I'm trying, I have this perfect vision of myself where I'm totally going to be meditative and totally going to be concentrated, and then I'm not, so why try? And this obviously can work in all different contexts. So it works in prayer, but it also works in relationships that we have with people, right? I imagine that my relationship with whoever it is should be perfect in this way, with my child, with my spouse, with my whoever it is. And then this thing happens, and so obviously my relationship isn't as good as I thought it was, because this happened, because I had a blowout, because whatever it is. And I invite you to think of any expectations that you might have of yourselves or of other people, and just to think about how frustrating it can be when those things just don't pan out. So after validating that question, the Rabbi Shneur Zalman speaks to the person who's having this frustration and says, the first thing that you have to ask yourself is this a reasonable expectation, right? I have this expectation of this perfect prayer, or I have this expectation of a perfect marriage, and I'm going to keep trying hard to get it, trying hard to get there. but is it reasonable to expect that of yourself? So in this context, and again, this depends on how much people know of Tanya, but assuming that there isn't much of a basic knowledge of Tanya, the Rabbi Shneur Zalman comes and he says, really, there are two types of people. There's the type of person who was born to be a righteous person, born to be a tzaddik, and there was the type of person that was born to struggle. Now, what that means is that there are certain people in a very select few that were born with a different mission than most people. They were born in that their soul is perfect on its own, and their main mission is to help other people in their journeys. So for those people who we would generally call a tzaddik or a righteous person, they are so small and so few and far in between that you are probably not one of them. And the only person who can expect to have a perfect prayer and to not have these distractions come to them is that tzaddik. But guess what? You're not that. And that's fine. That's not a problem. That's the way that God created you. But that's not who you are. So expecting that of yourself is not just doing a disfavor to yourself. It's completely lying to yourself and almost lying to God. So, and in a certain sense, it's almost being haughty, right? It's thinking that this is where I could be. No, actually, that's not who you are. And that's not what your journey is all about, right? We're human. And that's how we were created. Now, this is not supposed, and so the Rabbi Shneur Zalman continues and he says, however, this objective analysis of, is this a reasonable expectation of myself is not something that should make us down. To the contrary, once we can actually place ourselves, we can peg ourselves on the chart and say, no, I'm not expected to be perfect. We can start appreciating and rejoicing with the level that I am at, with the person that I've been created to be. So taking this away from the example of prayer, right? When I recognize that, no, I'm not going to be perfect. I'm human and I'm going to make mistakes. I can start recognizing that, wait, when I have a relationship and we have things that come up, when we work together to overcome this hurdle, then our relationship can be even stronger. Now, in context of prayer and in context of this Beinani, or this person who's trying to pray and who's not able to, the Rabbi Shneur Zalman says something very fascinating. He says, your expectation or your disappointment in that, if you were fully concentrating or if you were fully invested, nothing should come, right? If you're 100% fully meditating on God, there should be no room for any distraction to come. That would be true if you only had one soul. Now, Rabbi Shneur Zalman had already established previously in Tanya, this is chapter 28, that we don't have one soul, we have two. And one soul is godly, and one soul is, for lack of a better word, it's animal, it's human, it's instinctive. Not bad, but it's instinctive. And he says, you can be, by virtue of the fact that you have two souls, what that means is that you could be 100% invested with your godly soul, and you can be 100% connected with your godly soul. But that doesn't stop the other soul from saying anything. So whereas the person who thinks that he has only one soul, he had a point. If you were to say, if I'm 100%, there's no room for anything else, so I must not be investing myself enough. And no matter how much I try, I can never be investing myself enough. Rabbi Shneur Zalman says, no, you are investing yourself 100%. That's fine. But you have another soul that's talking. And not only that, if you, not only that, the way it works, he brings an example of a battle between two people, or really a wrestling match between two people. And he says, if one person feels like the other person is really gaining on him, then he's going to try with as much power and might as he has to, with his last energies to try and get the other person. So Rabbi Shneur Zalman is looking at this person who's praying and this person who's studying and this person who's meditating and trying to connect and becoming disappointed by the fact that that he's getting all of these distractions, and he's saying, the fact that you have these distractions is not a reason to be sad. Actually, it's a sign that you're doing such a good job. It's a sign that your animal soul feels threatened and is trying as much as it can to get the godly soul down. And so after you've done this objective analysis, know that really what you're expecting of yourself is not reasonable, it's not practical, it's not who you are. After you can do that, you can say, wow, where I'm at, the battle that I'm going through is really so beautiful. And this distraction, specifically this distraction, is my cue, or is my sign to tell me that no, I'm doing an amazing job. And that, excuse me. So that is something that I think that, again, we can apply in so many different circumstances across life. My grandmother once told me a story. She said that she was once in a store in Costco, and there was a really long line. There were so many people there, and it took a really long time to get to checkout. She finally got through, and she's walking to her car, and she sees that there are like a few things that she had forgotten to pay for. With all the chaos, she forgot to pay for a few of those things. So she, the first thought that came into her mind was like, okay, I'll pay for them next time. Like, there are so many people there. I'm not going to go back in. It took too much time. I'll pay for it next time. And then she caught herself. She's like, oh my goodness. I am a Rebbitzin of a shul. I am this really like respectable spiritual person that people look up to. And I was thinking about stealing. I mean, because for all intents and purposes, that's what it is. I was thinking about stealing. I must not be such a great Rebbitzin. Now, if she didn't know this chapter of Tanya, that's probably what she would say, and she would start feeling bad about herself. I'm a Rebbitzin. I have this expectation to be what everyone thinks that I am, and what I think everyone thinks that I am. And the fact that this thought of stealing came to my mind, that means that I'm totally not living up to, what everyone thinks of me. But the fact that she knows this chapter of Tanya, she was able to tell herself, no, that's fine. I'm a wonderful Rebbitzin, and I could be a wonderful Rebbitzin, but being a Rebbitzin doesn't negate the fact that I also have an animal soul, and I have an animal soul which right now is very lazy and is very tired and spent a long time at the checkout lane. So my Rebbitzin soul, right, my godly soul, can be really strong and really powerful, and the fact that my animal soul is tired, that's fine. They're not mutually exclusive. So once we went through step one, right, analyzing, are these expectations practical? Are they reasonable? And then number two, which is getting to a place of, okay, I can actually appreciate where I'm at. I can appreciate these distractions that are coming to me, because they're actually showing me that I'm really doing a great job. Then step number three is, okay, so now you have energy to work. Now you have energy to actually deal with this distraction that is coming to you in prayer. And then again, translating this or using this example for any other situation that may come in life. That when you think that, what I've done, that things that I've done, didn't get me to my expectations, so that means that I'm a failure, you have no energy to fight. I once heard a dietitian that said one of the worst thing for anyone on any sort of diet is guilt. Because when you're on this diet, then you've messed up, something happened, someone gave you chocolate cake or whatever it is. The next thought is, oh my goodness, I can't believe I did that. Okay, fine, whatever. Okay, so today's a mess up day. and I'm just going to eat whatever I want. She's like, that chocolate cake probably not going to do so much for you, but it's that guilt that you feel afterwards that, okay, I wasn't able to do it, so I'm not able to do anything. That's what's actually going to hurt you. But if you're able to take those 2 steps and say, wait, no, that's fine. I've messed up because I'm human. I've messed up because I have an animal soul. Yes, I have a wonderful godly soul and I've been doing so amazing up until now. I came to a little hiccup. That's okay. That doesn't make all my work worth nothing. Now, we're not done yet, because there's still that chocolate cake that you've eaten, right? And there's still the chocolate cake that's coming in a few more minutes, or in the relationship, there's still that blowout that I just had. And that's something that has to be fixed. But I'm going to repeat myself. If you didn't have these 2 steps, then you'd be like, okay, whatever, fine. You know, I'm just a bad person. I just have a bad relationship. I'm just a bad mother. I just, whatever it is, right? With every person, it's something else. The next step is now having energy to actually fight it. Now, in the context of prayer, the advice that Rabbi Schneur Zalman gives is the best way to fight a distraction is by completely ignoring it, right? If I were to tell you, don't think about oranges, they're not good for you. I don't want you to think about oranges. Obviously, the only thing you're thinking about is oranges. If you have this distraction that's coming to you, all you're going to be thinking about, if you're trying to push it away, all you're going to be thinking about is this distraction. And oh my goodness, it's so difficult. And you really are not going to be able to concentrate on your prayer. But what you could and probably should do is don't think about oranges. Think about apples and apple cake. And the last time that you went apple picking with whoever it was the air that you felt. And then once you get yourself off of the orange and start really going into the realm of thought about the apple, then look, that orange, that thought of the orange just went away without even trying. So what the Rabbi Schneur Zalman says is that specifically in this situation, the person who's trying to pray and he's having this distraction and doesn't know what to do, the best thing to do is to completely ignore and to, bury his face into his prayer book and continue praying. And again, using that as an analogy for life, some things have to be dealt with head on, right? And it really depends in what context this issue is coming up. But in many situations, so many times when we're focusing on the issue itself, that issue becomes so much larger, right? If I'm focusing on that one fight that I've had with whoever it is, that situation becomes bigger and could blow out of proportion. Sometimes, again, this is definitely the advice for prayer. Is it the advice for everything else? Not always, but sometimes the ability to not focus on that argument per se, but focus on the relationship. That's actually going to build the muscles around the relationship so that one little bone could fix itself on its own. Again, this is not advice for every situation. It's just a general idea of what the Rabbi Schneur Zalman is trying to tell us, that many times ignoring, and specifically ignoring a distraction in prayer, that is the best remedy to getting that distraction go away. And then he ends with saying, now, what if that doesn't work? What if you're working hard and you bury your head in your prayer book and you still can't get it out of your head? And no matter how hard you try reading the English, or you try meditating on different thoughts that you've had about God or whatever it is, it's not working. He says the best advice for you to do is to turn to God and ask him to help you. That's what you're doing anyway. What you're doing is praying. So turn to God and say, God, I can't do this. I have this distraction. I haven't tried. I'm working so hard on my meditation. Just help me out over here. And this is definitely something that can be applied to everything. Hopefully, when we're following the rubric of Tanya, and our general focus is on working on ourselves, we always have to remember that that the person we're working for, not the person, the entity or being that we're working for is God, is to make this world a better place, is to make this world a more spiritual place. So if we went through the first step of seeing where we're at, really, really being honest with ourselves where we're at, right? Not expecting something that is not applicable to us or relevant to us. And then number two, learning to be happy with where you are and appreciating the beauty of being that Beinoni, right? In the words of the Tanya, appreciating the beauty of being that middleman who can who the fact that he's having all these distractions, that's proof that he's doing such an amazing job. So really appreciating where we're at. And then from that place of strength, coming and working hard, when you go and ask for help from God, or if you go and ask for help from a therapist, if that's the situation where we're applying this to, if you go and ask for help, you're not asking from a place of despair. You're not asking from a place of, I'm nothing, this is horrible, I can't do this. You're asking from a place of strength. I'm trying, I'm a strong person, I am 100% invested with my godly soul. But guess what, God? You also gave me an animal soul. And to borrow words from chapter 31 of Tanya, where Rabbi Shneur Zalman says, remind yourselves, ani, and I'm going to use the Hebrew words here, ani lo asiti et atzmi. I have not created myself. I didn't create my specific set of situations. I didn't make myself a Beinoni. I didn't make myself, and the person who's a tzaddik, didn't do anything to become a tzaddik. You were created in your specific place intentionally for the mission that you have inside of this world. So if you went through steps 1, 2, and 3, and you feel like you're not being successful, the best and most wholesome thing is to turn to God and say, God, this is for you. This is me trying to do your mission in this world, and help me out. And even if you don't feel God telling you that right at that moment, that admission that I'm trying and my work is fully valid and my animal soul is so strong, just that admission can bring peace to ourselves. And hopefully, although practice does not make perfect, because perfect is only what a tzaddik is, and perfect is not what God wants from us, and perfect is not human, then we can, even though practice won't make perfect, practice might make better, and hopefully it will make better. So you're being distracted now, you're being whole with your godly soul, you're being whole with your animal soul, you're not hating any part of you, and you're forging forward, and we'll hopefully find it to be a little bit easier, and hopefully your relationship with God, with whoever it is that you're working through, will be a little bit stronger. That's chapter 28 in a very small nutshell. There's so much to discuss and unpack, but the general concept of not having unrealistic expectations, appreciating where we're at, working, and then submitting to God or asking God for help. If anyone has any questions in the last few minutes, I would love to hear and see if we can address it in this short time.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
As far as what I've read about tzaddikim, that is potential they're born with. No, they're not automatically tzaddikim.
100%. Yes, thank you for that disclaimer. Almost, that's true. And for someone in some situations in Jewish history, people were born with extremely high potential and have not, and actually, because by virtue of their high potential, they had so much power inside of them, but because they didn't use it properly, they ended up actually really going the other way. One classical example is Esav, right? The brother of Yaakov Avinu. So yes, a tzaddik definitely has to work on himself to get there. However, in Tanya, one of the names for Tanya is the Sefer Shel Beinoni, right? It's the book for the in-betweeners. There's tradition, and I don't know where to source this because I don't even remember where I heard it, but I'll just pass it on with with that disclaimer, is that Rabbi Shneur Zalman wrote another book called Sefer Shel Tzadikim, right? He wrote a specific book for people who can have this expectation of being perfect, and they have a totally different job in this world. However, that book was burnt in a fire, and because many houses were made of wood, and many manuscripts were lost in that way. And people take it as a message that what this world needs now is the Sefer Shel Benonim. But correct, a tzaddik does also have to do work in this world. He doesn't get out scot-free. All right, if that's it, then we're going to end for the night. Thank you for joining. I hope that we all learned something. And happy Chai Elul. I hope that it's a inspirational, beautiful day for you, and a day of prayer and talking to God.
Thank you.
My
Thank you.
pleasure.